Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Sophie B. Hawkins.
Damn, I wish I was your lover. I'd rock you till the daylight comes. Made sure you are smiling and warm.
Wow. Okay, so this is a big day for us. I'm very excited that you're here.
Oh, neat.
I've been singing your songs and bragging about you coming in for the past week.
Wow.
So all my coworkers are excited that the day has finally come, so I'll shut the fuck up about it probably. But they're also very excited. So this is, an honor. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. I feel honored.
Okay. It's mutual.
Yeah, we both had the opportunity to check out your documentary.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. So, by way of starting, I wondered if we wanted to talk about that, talk in the context of that. From 1997, 98.
Right.
And it's a documentary all about you, and sort of this comes after your first two records.
Yes.
And your huge successes.
Yes.
From As I Lay Me Down and Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover.
Yes.
And it's this documentary all about you. And so I just watched it, and so I have all of these questions sort of that stem from it. But I wanted to ask you before even doing that, how connected you feel to that person, and is that even fair?
Sophie, that person?
Yeah.
I love that person. So I feel very connected to myself, and especially because also if you had asked me this, several years ago when I was in so much turmoil, when I was leaving, that was when I first moved to California from New York, and I had never lived anywhere else. Of course, I'd toured the world. I'd lived in London for 2 years, in Paris for a year, but all that was being, Sophie B. Hawkins making my second record. So when I moved to LA and I met the person who said, I want to make a movie on you, and I said, all right, all talk, no do, LA. And then I thought I was also going to be in and out of LA. I never thought I would leave Manhattan. Uh-huh. And I ended up staying in LA because this one job after another. And then I learned to drive and I got a dog. And I just felt like I was learning so much. And also I loved the desert. And I felt actually inspired as a songwriter to be close to, what Joni Mitchell's California and to be close to Georgia O'Keeffe's desert. Mm-hmm. All that was really intriguing to me. And then the documentary, when Gigi Gaston said, I want to make a movie on you, and I thought, she'll just come to rehearsal, she'll film it, and she'll never come back. But I guess she found that there was a lot of meat there.
What was your relationship? Yeah. What was your relationship to her at the time when she said?
I didn't know her, and I thought, she was commanding. I said when I met Gigi that I felt like I was looking at a Greek goddess. Yeah. She had just beautiful stature, and I
think that's how people would describe you also.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. So maybe we were two Greek goddesses together.
Right, exactly.
So I thought that she had so much brain power, and she was so out of the box, as you can tell by the documentary. And I did keep fighting with her during it. But I thought, after being in the music business, which was, so in so many ways upsetting. And I'll tell you why, not the usual ways. Like, for instance, when I was nominated for a Grammy for Best New Artist, and Sony, and this is, Sony literally said, don't go to the Grammys, we're not paying for it. And I didn't say why, but my manager said, probably why, or you should pay for it. She's nominated. And they said, well, she's not going to win. Well, that wasn't the point. So in other words, my whole spirit of creativity was so bashed on the rocks again and again by this record company who on the one hand supported me so brilliantly, a real true artist. They really put me up there and put me out there, but then they were angry that I was a real true artist. Not they. I think just probably one person in the company who was very high up was angry about it. So my experience was like I had this problem with authority, but most artists do. Right. So I ended up going to California to get a breather, to get a way to reclaim my essence, my core, my center, and to challenge myself. I didn't even have a driver's license when I went there. So then I met this person who was another Greek goddess, and she said, I'm going to make a movie. And I thought, on what? What could you possibly make a movie on? Because everybody had always told me there was all these stories in my songs, and they're all in the documentary. And I said, you're just projecting your own
You weren't
childhood.
Conscious of it yet?
Not at all. Well, I was, but I didn't want to admit that I was conscious of it. Okay. And it's so much deep. I mean, the documentary is the tip of the iceberg in so many ways because, the documentary was me resisting this story that this filmmaker, that's why it says a view on the life of Sophie B. Hawkins. Sure. It really is her interpretation from the lyrics. And that's pretty pure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Her interpretation is pure. And when I really felt that I was bucking against her, she showed a lot of that. So, and I never signed the release.
Really?
And the reason why I didn't was because she said, you don't have to sign the release. And so I never did.
To this day?
Yeah.
Was there an issue with it coming out?
I didn't want it to come out, but then again, I thought, some parts of it are really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's but that's life. And everyone advised me who knew me, don't let it come out. And they were probably right, but maybe they were wrong. How do I know?
Well, what harm do you think it could have done you looking back now?
Well, I mean, my family.
Oh, okay.
That.
Okay.
Yeah. Do
you think it made you guys stronger in the long run?
I think it brought up things we absolutely had to look at.
Yeah.
But, are still, did it make... I don't know how it affected each person individually. I mean, my mother was very much a part of the documentary.
Yes.
I mean, it was almost, in many ways, her documentary a lot.
Right. Uh-huh.
She was trying to pull it into that realm of her. And she's a very, she's like one of Shakespeare's witches.
She's a character.
She's a real character and a poet and a writer. Mm-hmm. And I loved it when she was on camera because I thought she was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Captivating.
Right?
Yes.
Like you could almost make a play off the documentary.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
So in that way...
I mean, it was fascinating. It's like, sorry, the dream that a documentary filmmaker has is, I'm going to start making this about one thing, about this artist and her music, and then all of a sudden something else fascinating emerges. And
Right.
it happen, and you discover these characters, and your mother is certainly...
She's amazing.
Yeah, but there are moments where you guys are talking about really hard, dark things,
Yes.
but also laughing
Yes.
together,
I know.
Which that is totally relatable. That's
Yes.
the crazy thing about families. You can go through
Yes.
some real fucked up shit
Right.
together, but you still love each other.
Right, or something to aspire to. I mean, that's not common. It felt very unusual to see.
Yeah.
Such laughter.
Well, but it can be a fine line too, right? Because sometimes you're laughing through pain when really you need to be like, no, this is real. This was trauma, and we need to address it.
Right.
You know?
But you know what I've learned, and I learned it in the documentary, like my brother also signed, they did sign releases, all of them. My brother signed on to do it, and he was very expressive. I didn't have to deal with her shit or anybody's shit, and I just moved to California, and he was, her practicing every day was so annoying and whatever. And he looked, with his bobby pins, he looked like a real individual, and he's amazing. Everyone in my family is amazing. My father died. So he is still the silent cat in the whole picture. But my brother and my sister and my mother and I now have a really, we're very committed to the family. And I have 2 children, Dashiell, who's 8, and Esther, who's almost 2 years old. And we're all going to the Cape this summer. They're on the Upper West Side. We see them a lot. And my sister has 2 children. And I think in the end of the day, it will be very good for the family to have this because it's so easy to say these things didn't exist, these things didn't happen. Like when my mother, who's 80-something, when she dies, you could say, you can never remember her, but you can look at her on that film and see how incredibly complex and powerful and what a teller of tales she was.
Right.
So anyway, I think in the end of the day, I'm not upset, but it was... To the outer family, they're like, you should feel so guilty and you should apologize and you must feel really bad coming around here again. And I go, for what? And they go, that movie. And I said, well, did you see it? No. And I said, well, watch it. And then next thing they're talking about incest. Well, I have a little issue with it. So that's the thing with it. It is not a lie.
Right.
Right. But it is also a portrayal of you as an artist that might be separate from what your fans would have imagined or known.
Yeah, and maybe they don't want that.
But, I mean, it makes you the complete art. You're a person.
Right.
And I think that's what you decided. And that's what I wanted to ask you also, is that you sort of decided when Sony wasn't cooperating with your artistry.
Right.
It was that sort of a marking point of a decision when you said, I am this person. I am an artist, and I would choose to be that over the fame that's sticking with this.
That's exactly a great question, because I remember saying to the head of the record company, Sony, I would rather be on my porch when I'm 95 and say I was a songwriter and I was an artist, not I, at this point in my life, decided to work with such and such co-songwriter and such producer and have huge hits and wear and look and say these things and not be happy with my material because they took the song Lose Your Way that I wrote on the banjo and they had it remixed a million times and tried to take the banjo off and put on these fake backgrounds that were stolen from other songs, you know. Ironically, that that beautiful Four Non-Blondes song with that great songwriter, they took those backgrounds and put them on Lose Your Way. And I said, come on. I mean, but that was the beginning. Now it's like all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
People are doing that. People are taking the song, you know, I won't say what, but they take the songs from like the 40s and the 20s that are piano songs that everyone knows as a kid. Practically, watch, it's going to be a song. And they don't, and it's unapologetic.
Yeah.
So, but this was the beginning of it. And I saw, and I marked that change, and I stood at those crossroads, and I said, I want to die a true artist. And that's what I did. And it's been a really interesting road.
Yeah. I mean, so this is how I see what happened with your career and is emblematic of your kind of brave life from what I can tell that you've led since then, is that you came out of the gate and you are just an instant success, like crazy, wrote ubiquitous hits, amazing, but almost immediately felt like you weren't able to do it on your own terms and made a very brave decision to take control back, even if that was going to risk your son's success.
Yes.
Which is incredibly impressive for a young new artist.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's interesting about the sudden success too, because I had been writing. So, I mean, Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover. I didn't write within those years that I was signed to Sony. I wrote way before, and nobody heard it when I was living on 6th Avenue and Prince Street. So it didn't feel sudden to me. In fact, it felt like shocking to me that all of a sudden I was successful after so many years.
You're like, why now?
Of being rejected. I know, and I felt old already. I felt I've been rejected by every publishing company, every label. Everyone who's ever come to see me has just walked away without a word.
Right.
It had been like that for so many years.
So you were at that time, I know that you were a percussionist.
Yes, I was a drummer.
And
which is so badass.
Which is the most badass. And it's also interesting, just side note, that you refer to yourself and you think of yourself as a songwriter when you're a multi-instrumentalist and songwriter and singer. And so, but you know, so we could talk about that, how you perceive you know, songwriting as being the main sort of thing. But after you were in that band as a drummer, were you then out and gigging and trying to make it as a singer-songwriter with this song, Damn?
Yeah, but I never performed the song.
I know, what is the shortened version of that?
Damn, I wish I was never.
Is there a shorter way to say it? Damn.
I guess damn, people say. I did never perform that song.
Kendrick Lamar stole it.
Because by that, would you say
Kendrick Lamar stole it. That's the name of,
yeah.
So I never performed Damn live, and I don't think I ever performed As I Lay Me Down live. There was something inside of me that kept those, because when I played them for friends, they didn't like them. They didn't get it. And I knew it. I knew the minute Damn came out that it was life-changing.
Yeah.
What was the arrangement you had?
Sorry, I feel like you're shackled by this.
Oh, I am?
This behind you.
Okay, sure.
I don't want you to be tethered.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
That's so nice.
The form was exactly the same. It was 3 verses, a huge long bridge, and all those choruses. That was exactly the same. And I remember when my hands, and I still have the piano, I remember when my hands fell on those chords, I was tired, and I'd been playing so long around these changes. And then when my hands hit those chords, and it was a mistake. It was like A to D, but my hands hit a G, and I said, hold on, that is magic. It was a magic sound, and it was that bass note.
You mean those first two?
The first da, da, but my finger.
So iconic.
Yes, and my finger was on the G, so it went from A to G, and I was like, da, da, and I said, boom.
Yeah.
It was that boom that made it so
Those two chords
big.
make me feel away every time I hear it.
And then, and there was this space in it, and then, that old dog has chained you up, all right.
Yeah.
So you wrote it on the piano?
Yes, I write almost everything on the piano. I wrote As I Lay Me Down on the guitar, which is only because I didn't have a piano. And I played the guitar like a piano player, basically. So that moment, though, the minute those chords happened and the minute those lyrics came out, I said, oh my God, this is so big, I'm not sure I can even have it come out. It was a feeling of such fear and such love and such, it could almost make me cry right now, like a true baby.
Yeah.
Even though I've always resented when they call songs babies, because now I've had a real baby. Babies are so much easier than
Could
songs.
have different meanings. Like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I know. Well, babies you can make like you don't have much to do with it. Your body makes it.
Right.
You just have to spend the money on whatever. Or that's
You're
the modern
making
way.
childbirth sound amazing.
Do you have children?
No.
Oh, well, it's easier. Well, it's hard if you can't have children and you have a lot of issues.
Right.
But psychologically, I guess it's hard. But for me, childbirth wasn't as hard as being an artist.
But in terms of actual songwriting, do you feel like you're very intentionally sitting down and cooking this thing? Or
Yes.
do you have like the conduit feeling of like it's coming through you?
So okay. So
Or it can
that's
go either
great.
way?
Well, it's both because
Yeah.
I definitely sit down like this musical I'm writing now, which I wrote first as a play. You know, now that you've seen the documentary, you know I have material. So I wrote a play, which is actually a very funny play. And then people said, you've got to make it a musical. And I was like, oh no, songs again? So then I sit down. I sit down intentionally to write a song. But I know that I don't know when the magic will come. That conduit thing will come, but you have to be there. And I think a lot of artists have said that.
Yeah.
So in a sense, that's this discipline of making yourself sit down, which is also sort of nice. It's nice to be able to
Totally.
sit at a piano
Yeah.
and do other things for a
Yeah.
living.
I think it's a Picasso quote. He said you have to show up for the muse.
Yes.
Like
and it
you got to
is like
sit down
that.
and be ready for it.
Right. That's
Yeah.
exactly. And that's why when you said about do I identify as a songwriter or a musician, I never feel every song I start fresh and I think I'll never be able to write a song. Why am I thinking I can write a song? And then this is the same with music. No matter how many hours I've practiced, I go, why am I thinking I can do this? And
Really?
And then I just say, oh well. Yes. I know there's people who think they're so great at everything. And then I look back and I go, I really was good at that.
Right.
Or I am good at that. But
Yeah.
but not in the moment. I feel like, oh no, I'm starting from scratch.
Right.
The filmmaker Gigi said called you a modern day Beethoven, Janis
did?
Joplin. Yeah.
When did she say that?
I don't know, in a quote about the film.
That's so interesting because she wrote a play where I played Janis Joplin.
Right.
And it was a really great play.
But the Beethoven part is pretty amazing.
I don't know
too.
why she would say the Beethoven part, but she's not a musician.
Well, you have a natural proclivity for, like, did music come easy to you? I also
No.
read no.
Well, it's like, what'd you read?
I think it was actually something that you said in the documentary about watching a friend take piano lessons
Yes,
before you had
Eliza.
the chance, and that you just saw her hands on the keys and were like, that looks like divine happiness.
Yes.
Which is, if you have that feeling sitting down at the piano, it just sounds a lot easier than being like, oh God, I have to practice now, and this is hard.
Right, which is why I don't push my son to practice. That is true. Okay, so I think that the muse does come in spades for me, like the chord changes and the movement, and people go, a very, very sweet woman said it would be my dream to write with you, and I said, okay, so let's do it. It was really a great moment, and she's a really good songwriter and singer herself. And so at certain points, like I keep turning it on its head, and she thought it would be done the first session, and I said, are you kidding me? We haven't even begun yet. This sounds like every other thing out there. And then I keep coming back, and before each session, I think we're never going to get this. And then finally, I've turned it around so much, and she goes, how can you do, wait a minute, that sounds great. Well, I guess that's why you're Sophie B. Hawkins. And I go, I guess that's why.
There you go.
I guess that's
Right.
this natural thing, what you just pointed out, where I really am going for something new. I'm going for something like that, those damn chords, but then you have to connect it with the chorus and then the bridge. It all has to make sense, and it all has to be new.
Yeah.
It can't be the same, and it can't be reminiscent. And I think that's what maybe I think everyone should be going for that. And then I get so disappointed, like when I hear, the next thing when you hear ba-rum, bum, bum, ba-rum, bum, bum, and then you're going to hear that's a hit, and you go, how could you do that? It's almost blasphemous.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so, there's so much about you that's so refreshing and different. And I mean, most artists will not cop to the fact, or maybe, I don't know if it's, being dishonest or being humble or something, but they won't say like, yes, I knew this was a hit. I felt it. It was exciting. There's something
Right.
in that music. And
you
in
don't
those
always
lyrics.
know.
You don't always know, but I think sometimes you do know. I think it's very
Right.
nice to hear, like, you're like, yes, I knew that was special. That was almost too special to come out.
Yes,
it
was
very
so
unusual to
uncomfortable.
hear.
That's really great. Now, and there's one song that I've written recently for the musical I'm writing that had that specialness, and I knew when it was coming out, and it's always, and here is the thing, you do have to show up for the Muse, and it doesn't seem that hard when it's 9 to 5, but when you push yourself to get up at 2 a.m, which often does have to happen.
Yeah.
Like I will fall asleep reading with my son. And now we read in tandem. Like he reads his books and I read mine, but we're still lying there. It's like heavenly.
It's amazing.
And then I fall asleep, and then I go, and then I wake up and I think, just go back to bed. Just go back to bed. You're gonna have to get up with your daughter. Blah, blah, blah. And then I say, no, you can't. You've got to push yourself. And I push myself to get up. That's the moments where you know you're really having to show up for the Muse, and those do have to be there.
Right. Man, so this morning I was like singing Damn and like being excited, and my coworker, a guy, was sitting across from me, and he was getting annoyed with me, and I was like, what? And he's like, I can't hear that song anymore. And I was like, come on, that's like one of the great songs. And he was like, well, honestly, I associate it with this time in my life when like I was trying to talk to girls for the first time and they wanted nothing to do with me.
Oh, wow.
And I have like this bad connotation with it, which is so funny because to me, I think I like first heard it in an episode of 90210.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's tied to like my sexual awakening as a human being. When I was like first having crushes on people. And like that was romance to me, was like songs like that, you know?
Yes.
So it's so interesting how a song can be
tied to young love. It's going to be
tied
all
to young
the
love,
things.
good or bad. Yeah,
Right.
it's true. It's
totally
going to be the full spectrum.
But for sure, for both of us and our generation, it was tied to like school dances and 90210.
Right.
And all
Isn't that
those things.
amazing?
Yeah.
And to me, it's still
It's like a
as
sense
fresh
memory
as it
almost.
was.
Yeah.
Every time I sing it, I feel like, wow, this feels real to me. I have those feelings now.
Of creating it?
Yeah.
Or
Oh
of
no,
what?
of that love and that yearning, that longing so much, because it's got enough shades and layers that you can still relate to it as an older person.
Right.
I mean, forever. You know, that's the problem with getting older for me, is that I don't realize I'm getting older, and I think a lot of older people feel this way. And I'm thinking, when I'm 75, I won't remember that I'm 75, and then I'll look in the mirror and be stunned.
But isn't that the trick? Isn't that
Which-
the key to
But
success?
also, what does that even mean? I don't know.
Like, isn't that the secret that we all want? It's like,
Well,
I
you're
don't
right.
realize. I mean, you had a kid at 50, is that right?
Yes.
50. Like, that is amazing. And that's something. Esther, I think that's something that if you were constantly thinking, I'm, whatever age I am, it would be harder to do.
Okay, but like,
these
what does that
things.
even mean?
right.
That means like thinking about how your age is defined by the expectations of the society you live in, right? Because you
Right.
should feel like the person that you are. What does that mean? Like,
I think it means not right. I mean, feeling
You know what I
well,
mean?
feeling good is first
Right.
thing.
well, it's one thing to be like,
Right.
I'm getting older, my body is starting to fail me, and like feeling those things, that's very real. But otherwise,
No,
you
that's a good
should
point. What
only
does it mean?
feel. I don't know. I think
Right.
we kind of always feel like the same person. I mean, we go through changes and psychology and all those things, but I think at our core, we kind of always feel the same.
no, I like
right?
that. Yeah.
That's why I think you can listen to songs and tap so quickly back into what it felt like to be 12 years old,
Definitely.
because like, you're
Yes,
still that.
you do feel the same, but there's so many things going on listening to you, because a lot of it is how other people perceive you.
Yes.
And they do suddenly look at you as older, and you go, what? Oh, yes. That's one thing. Like I don't look good anymore in certain T-shirts that I would have been at 30.
Sure. Okay. That's real.
No, it's true, because
Yeah.
if they're ragtag, I don't want to be older in ragtag. I want to be older and elegant. That's one. So there's a superficial thing where you want to present yourself in the best way possible, and you do look older. And so there's that.
Okay.
And but then there's also that the things that come out of you, even though I have the feelings of damn, I'll never write damn again. I couldn't ever write it even 5 years later. I couldn't have written it again, because that's a moment in time. And although that's in there's so many more things. And I sometimes do get frustrated with what comes out of me as an older person. Like I love my statements. I love my philosophy. I love the musical I'm writing. But sometimes I get mad that I'm so different, mad at myself that I'm so even-keeled.
Right.
Like I'm such a mellow mom.
Yeah.
And my son calls me mellow fellow.
Really?
Yes. And I don't...
I mean, talk about the difference from the film from
Yes,
20 years
I
ago.
wasn't mellow fellow then.
You were
No.
not mellow. And it's interesting how much at once I feel like so much confidence you have and also so much vulnerability.
Yeah, well, that's still true. The vulnerability is still true. And the strange confidence. You know, it's really, and also about how people see you. Like, this is interesting. My son's 8 years old and in this school, and he came and he said, I know, wait, I shouldn't out him. I'm not outing him, but I shouldn't say what he said. Okay, forget it. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. But that vulnerability and maybe slight overconfidence is crucial to being an artist and a performer.
I think you're probably right. And
you
it is
have
an
to have both those
overconfidence.
things.
Yes, yes. But then when I see other artists who are so technically great, and that's the thing that I've arrived at, that I am happy about being older, that how many times I've performed over these years. How many years has it been? 30? 30 years, I've really performed my butt off. And now I can walk on a stage and know that even if I don't even have a speaking voice, that I will find a voice and I will deliver a great performance. Whereas when I was in the Damn days and all that pressure from the record company and every background singer saying, you can't really sing and you have no technique and all that, it got to me. And it made it, I wish that I could have had me as a mother. I would have been such a great mother for myself.
Yeah. Well, that's what you can do for yourself now.
Yeah,
you have that wisdom.
Right. Yes, but nobody cares about you when you're this age.
Right.
I mean, the truth is I am, you guys are much younger, I am the biggest market. I am the person who will actually pay for something. And so I always said to labels, and why aren't we marketing to 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old women? They're dying for things.
Do you mean now?
And then, even then, I always said, this is a market that you should be marketing me to because my lyrics have the depth to reach older women. And they never did it because you know why? They were guys and they weren't interested. It wasn't sexy. And it is sexy to me. And I just wish I could tap into that. And even now, a record company says, well, if you're not on AAA radio, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, but AAA, people who listen to that will never download my record.
Right.
But then again, I want support and I want to be out there. So, and then again, I do get all the new artists from my son who listens to radio all the time, the playlist.
Yeah.
So if it weren't for him, I wouldn't know 2/3 of the new songs.
Yeah. Well, I got to think the key to a lot of that is just having more women heading record labels and radio stations and,
But are they interested?
streaming
Because there's
services.
not much money in it.
Yeah. Well, is anyone interested is then the question.
Yes.
Well, not sure. But I mean, in terms of just marketing to older women, I think that's a matter of you want to promote the stuff that you want to consume.
Yes.
So if you are a man and that's not as appealing to you, you might not promote it as much as, if you're a woman and that really speaks to you, you're going to work harder to
I just have to
promote
find that person who really gets that about women and I haven't met that person anywhere near the music business yet.
I feel like it's been yourself.
Right.
Yes.
You started a label.
I did, and I had a really good run. And at the time, of course, I was thinking I'm not doing well enough, but compared to how the business is, I was doing great. Yeah. And so in
it
a
was
way,
at a time people still bought records and still
and I was
paid for-
touring my butt off, and people did say, when I moved back to New York from California, where have you been? Where have you been? And I realized that they're just not connected to the music business because I was touring my butt off and releasing records and doing the best I could and doing a lot of activism and everything.
I want to ask, so after Damn, and you talk about this in the documentary a bit, that you felt like you had compromised and you were made ashamed of yourself and moving away from yourself. How did you get back to yourself?
Well, that just happened, I think recently.
Yeah?
Yeah. I do definitely think having Dashiell was a great way to get back to myself because I was fighting for him, fighting to have a child. Even in the relationship I was in, it was the thing that I was doing that was differentiating myself. And it wasn't about music business and success and failure and always struggling for the next mountain. It was just about being and being creative and letting myself relax into that. And so Dashiell, and he's a very creative soul and a very grounded. Dashiell, believe it or not, grounds me more than any human being has ever. It's just his soul. It's who he is. And then having Esther also, it's just, and she's the opposite. She's a queen.
Yeah.
And as Dashiell says, she's not my queen. But they really respect and love each other. And like she'll take his seat, she'll take his food, and she's not even 2, but he lets her, but with the caveat that, I'm letting you because you're only not even 2.
Yeah.
So they've really gotten me in touch with just life again. And life is what art is about, not success.
Right.
And we stop being, even though I rush a lot because I have 2 kids, but stopping and being just alive is the key to the Muse, too. And being near Central Park again, coming back to New York and walking through the park and writing this play, which was so close to me, and having it come like as phrases, just from walking in the park and saying something and then writing it down, something that simple has brought me, I feel really good. And people are frustrated with me always in the business because I have an album. And it has a title. And I even have artwork. But I can't let it out because people are saying it's too light. Well, one person says it's great and the other person says it's too light. It's like Judy Collins, which I don't think it's like Judy Collins or whatever. And so then I'm going to record the Carlyle live.
Oh, you are?
Yes,
Amazing.
I'm going to record it all 3 nights because I feel like people keep saying, you live is you. And somehow in recording, you never get the full depth of your voice, the full range of your emotion. And so that's what I decided. So I didn't panic that people don't love this 17-song thing. I thought, okay, I'm not going to release it. If people are saying that, I'm going to listen to, whether they listen to the choir, not the single voice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push it out like I've done with other albums. With The Crossing, I just pushed it out because I felt like it had been too long.
Yeah.
And it didn't go well enough for me.
Okay.
So this time I'm saying, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm making all the mistakes. Been saying I'm coming out with an album for so long. But you know what? I'm going to record all these live shows now and see how, and I bet you that will be a great experience.
What do you think it is? Performing in front of an audience?
Yes, because how we are now?
Yeah.
It's alive.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to be a songwriter and to work out all the chord changes and the lyrics and to be with myself. But to get in front of somebody and actually say it, because I say the song and it hits me and it dawns on me. And always in between songs I have revelations. Yeah. And so I think, and by the way, I'm basically just a blues singer. I've realized that over time. I'm basically just Zora Neale Hurston in a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're not a stiff performer. You will go with the flow. I
Yes.
mean, from seeing all of that performance footage, I mean, you are wild. You can be wild. I mean,
Yes.
Carlyle would probably be a little more subdued.
Maybe not, though.
There's not room to be wild.
Right.
But I will be. I'm doing some Janis songs. And I'm
Are
doing
you?
funny songs that I wrote as Janis. Because I
Amazing.
kept trying to get my original songs into the musical of Janis. So I'd write a song as Janis as a demo. And then I'd write a song as Janis just before she's going on at Woodstock. And I kept saying, can't we put this in? Wouldn't this be great? So I have all those. I mean, Janis, she came through me. Her friends showed up at the play and they gave me her jewelry.
Oh, wow.
And they said that you are Janis. There's no question that you are channeling her. And it almost destroyed my life being Janis.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, because to be her every night, and I really must have channeled her, or at least I feel that way, and her friends felt that way, on the stage. And it was a beautiful play that Gigi Gaston wrote called Room 105, the room she died in. So on the stage, I live her life. And so many things that have never been out about Janis because her estate doesn't want them out. Beautiful.
That's why they can never make a movie about her.
Right, because they have to tell the truth. And this is the key to art.
Yeah.
Janis, the person with all, and Gigi really had so much of it in her play. And her relationship with her mother and the relationship with this woman, Peggy, and her relationship, the things that really killed Janis, even though I do believe that it was by accident, but she did it. But it was one of those fatal mistakes. But she was sober, before, she was completely sober before she did that overdose of heroin that night. And it was an event that caused it. And it was a heart thing. It was something with her lover, Peggy, that caused it. And Peggy did something that night. And it's in Gigi's play. And I lived it. And then I lived the killing myself on stage, but as light, like not light LITE, but not heavy, but doing the actual act. And in a moment of so much pain, but also so much self-realization. And then my mother comes to me just after I've done it. And she's already been dead. And we make up. Like, she says to me, "You're beautiful." And she had never said that to me before. She had never said you're beautiful. She had never said you're a good singer. And yet she had been like the belle of Texas. She was a great singer. Her mother was an opera singer and taught Janis how to sing as a coloratura since Janis was 6 years old. So when Janis became Janis, and I go through that whole thing, the mother separated from her, was, ashamed of her. So when after I shoot up and then I have a sort of a dream that my mother comes to me, it's really beautiful, but it's so moving because I'm dying. Wow. The audience knows it, but I don't know it.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to my mother and she says these things and I was crying. And the woman who played my mother is such a great actress. And every night the audience was in tears. And so then after I died, I came back as Pearl, the album cover Pearl, and just singing my guts out. So it was very powerful.
Yeah.
But every night to do that,
That
a
is
lot.
a lot.
and then at that time, my relationship was breaking up, and there was a thing going on, and I'm a very loyal person and very committed person, and been totally committed for 17 years, and then this thing was happening very much like Janis to me, and I was watching it, and I had to watch it from the stage, in the audience almost every night.
Did you have to take a little time out after the show closed to recollect your soul?
I was so worried.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do when the show closed. I was so worried. And then everything fell apart in my life because, like I said, I had been lied to, and I have songs about it on the new album. I might do one live. But then I had to get my son and get to high ground because I was so, performing all those nights with a child, and then everything is being taken out. I had to just move. I had to move. And maybe that was good in survival. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what got me together again.
Yeah.
Having
Is that what
to
brought you
move.
back here?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
But I'm curious about if you have a project that you work hard on and it's from your soul and this body of music, and then someone says, "Oh, that's too this or that's too that. I don't like this. I don't like that." How does that sit with you? How does it work when you create something and then someone sort of crushes?
It's such a great question. Well, I think I respond to it like, for instance, the music just now. Well, I know that the recording was a certain way. So I know the songs are great, but the production may be lacking or two one way or another. And so I can hear that. I think that that's probably true. It might be good for some things, but not good for where I am right now.
Do you have a number of people or like one
No,
person who
no,
you trust and say, if you say this, then I'm
No.
going to really listen? How
No,
do you
I
gauge?
don't. I don't trust anybody, and that's why I said I had to listen to the choir.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust anybody. I mean, I think it sounds good, but I always, you know what it is too. I didn't think "Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover" sounded good. When that was on the radio and I heard it for the first time in Atlanta, and I was so terrified, and the beautiful Sony woman said, her name was Effie or something, and she said, "Oh my God, your song's going to play right now," and I thought it sounded like crap. And I was so like, how could this be doing well? And so I don't even trust myself.
Yeah.
But I do know that I'm looking for something now. Like when I hear Little Jimmy Scott and he rips my heart out, I want, before I die, to get that on tape, or not tape, what do you call it now? Digital. I want to get it out there. So I do agree that isn't there. And the songs are there, so it's got to be in the production.
Okay.
Do you resist that comment at first? Like, does you have to sit with it and say,
No.
There's a lot of humility
It's
to say
so-
okay
yeah,
to that.
man.
No, I don't resist that. I don't. And maybe people have said, like my guitar player says, you're so flexible that it can be bad because you listen to people and then you go, okay, and then I might move off too quickly. But like, for instance, with the musical I'm writing, I wrote this like really rip-roaring first draft. And one person really loved it and wanted to go with it, and the other person had so much like chop, 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 chop. And I really said, I better go with the chop, 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 because I always can come back. And now I find myself coming back a little bit, but having learned from the chop, 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 chop. So that's how I do it. I do everything like I'm in school, and this is my job in the end of the day, and I better hear all what's wrong, and then I will decide how to fix this. Because I know it's on me to fix it.
yeah.
Oh. I'm looking forward to those dates at the Carlyle.
Oh,
Sounds like it's going to be intense.
Right.
In a great way.
I know, but see
Yeah.
how I scare myself. You're like, look like it's going to be intense. Woo!
You're like, canceled. Forget it. Wait a minute.
I honestly wish I was doing a month there. You know, I had
Yeah.
6 nights there, and I was so afraid that I wasn't going to. Well, a publicist made me think that I wasn't going to. She said, 6 nights, because it was her job to sell it out, not the publicist I have now. A different one said, how are you going to sell out 6 nights? I mean, how is anyone going to sell out 6 nights anywhere in New York? But the truth is, I should have done the 6 nights. Because the Carlyle has their own audience, number one. And the other one is, who gives a damn?
Right.
And I wish I had those 6 nights.
Well, you could always do a second round.
I want to, like
Yeah.
next year. I think that I would be the kind of person who would be good as a residency,
Yeah.
like a month.
Totally.
Because I just feel like so much more keeps coming out. And when I stop performing, I get into this, I'm not really a performer.
Right.
And then when I start performing, I go, Sophie, you only find things when you're on the line.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you'll give them a little taste.
Yes.
June 27th, 28th, 29th,
Yes.
right? And then they'll want more. And then
Exciting.
there you go.
Yeah, and I'll want more.
And you'll want more. We'll want more.
But that's the key, by the way, is if you can't stay in this realm if you don't want more. And I think that's the hunger that keeps me here. It's not that I don't think people would notice if I went away. I'll be totally honest. But I want more from myself.
Yeah. You have to. I mean, that's what sustains you, right? The hunger for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wanting to get, and even though you had that first, you said, oh my God, this music is amazing. It hasn't finished for you. You said, I
Yes.
still need something more.
Yes, I haven't even had the damn vocal that I like.
Well, that's next.
Right.
There you go. And I just want to ask you quickly, it's Pride Month. Are you doing Pride festivities?
No, and this is, again, nobody cares. I have said to the Pride people, please, I'm available. Can't I do something for Pride? I have all
Yeah.
these songs that are perfect for Pride, but I can't get arrested for Pride.
What?
It's
I don't
always been.
understand that.
I don't either.
Oh my God. You should
Crazy.
just like get your guitar and
Just do it.
post up
Yeah.
at
Can
some
I just say
street
something?
corner.
I think as a single, amazing woman, that I am the catch of the century. What is
Hell
wrong
yeah.
with these people?
Hell yeah.
So I just say, okay, you're missing out.
Oh my God. Will you come spend Pride with us?
Right?
Let's
Isn't that true,
Let's
though?
have you perform
Absolutely.
at Pride.
Isn't
We'll
it
make it
true?
happen.
I don't know if it's true, but I think
Definitely
so.
true.
But so anyway, so I feel like I'm just still in that I'm still preserved for whatever. But yeah, I can't believe that. But I'm not the flavor, and it's fine, because I am
not.
a great flavor,
that
but I'm not the
means.
flavor.
That's stupid.
Yeah, but I honestly don't mind, as you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, you have enough
A
going
lot
on.
going on.
Yeah.
Is there do you know about the musical when we could
I have
maybe
no
think about-
idea.
okay.
I have no idea because it's in such editing mode. It hasn't even gotten to a table reading, which I'm glad, because I have to write. I have to make it better.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay. So
things to
on the
look out
list
for.
are, finishing that musical, killing it at the Carlyle,
Yep.
moving to Brooklyn.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. That's a good
Near
list.
the water. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
This has been
All right.
amazing.
Sophie, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Carlyle, guys, check her out. It's going to be killer. And if you cheer loud enough, maybe you'll be on the live recording.
Yes.
We can all be part of it.
Maybe I'll bring people up.
Whoa.
Okay. Goals.
Goals.
Goals. All right. Sophie, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.